Hello everyone and welcome. It's Friday and so it's time once again to do a studio review session. This week we're talking about inheritance. We're on studio number 8 and this week we're going to be building a quiz, using inheritance to build a quiz. When you clone the repository, you're going to get a few files in here relating to quizzes. We're actually going to start by looking at the question class. This is going to be used as our base class or our super class. So let's take a look at it real quick, make sure we understand how it works, and then do some inheritance. First off, we can see we've got 3 instance variables: a prompt, so that's going to be the actual question, the answer for the question, and then how many points this question is going to be worth. We have a constructor here that sets those instance variables. That's the responsibility of the constructor. Method for displaying the prompt that states how many points it's worth as well. And then a method for checking the answer that takes in an answer presumably from somebody taking the quiz and sees if it's equal to the answer, to the actual answer to the question. And if it is, you get all the points, and if it's not, then you don't get any of the points. We have some getters down here that we might need a little bit later on. And then just to kind of test things out, there's a main method down here at the bottom that creates a question, displays the prompt, and then checks. This would be an incorrect answer. The question is, what number studio is this? This would be a correct answer. So 8 would be the correct answer. If we run this, we'll see what we expect, hopefully. What number studio is this? It's worth 2 points. If we plug in the incorrect answer, we get a 0. Plug in the correct answer, we get a 2. So this is a question that expects the user or somebody to just type in the answer, right? Similar to what I guess you would call a fill-in-the-blank style question. What we want to do is use this base class, this super class, to develop other question types. So we're going to start with a multiple choice question. For this one, obviously, we're going to have not just a question, but also some choices that go along with it. So we need to think about how we're going to represent that. You can see that inheritance is already in use. I see extends question here, meaning that we inherit all of the methods as well as all of the instance variables from the base class, from the super class already. And the constructors started for us, and there's another parameter out here that strongly implies we're going to get an array of strings, and I believe that's going to be an additional instance variable that we need this class to contain. So because of the way that we're using inheritance, this multiple choice question class actually has 4 instance variables. It has the 3 that it is inheriting from the question class, as well as 1 additional instance variable here that is only required for the multiple choice question. The superclass doesn't have a list of choices. It doesn't need a list of choices, so we'll keep this only where it's actually needed and out of that superclass. Now we are going to complete the constructor, and we're going to do that by calling the superclass constructor. So if you need to refresh, you can always take a look and see that it takes in those 3 parameters and is responsible for setting those 3 variables. So we'll go ahead and do that by using the super keyword, plug in the prompt, the answer, and the number of points. We're still responsible for setting this instance variable as well, so we need to do that the normal way. We're accepting this choices parameter here with our list of choices and storing that in the instance variable, and our constructor is now complete. We then need to update, or I should use the proper word, we need to override. So this is an example of overriding a method from the base class. In this case, we are overriding the display prompt method. Here it's going to print out the prompt as well as the number of points. And actually we still want that information. We just also want to see the choices. We need to see the choices as well. And so we can actually reflect that in our code by using the method from the base class to display the prompt, and then writing the additional code necessary to include the choices. So to access the method from the base class, we'll use that super keyword again. Anytime you see the word super, that means we're using inheritance, and we want to do something with the super class, with the base class. Followed by a dot, just like we would call any other method, display prompt. That'll take care of everything that already happens in the base class. And then we'll come down here and write a for loop. To go over all of the choices and print them out one at a time. We need to include I plus 1 as the question number, followed by the choice from the array. We can actually test this out. There's another main method down here where you see there's a list of choices. It says, what studio is this? And passes in that the correct answer is 3. So that is the third choice. Remember, even though we count arrays from 0, when we display the choices, they actually start from number 1. So I would expect, if somebody's taking this quiz, they wouldn't expect to see a 0 here. We're going to keep it nice for normal human expectations and go 1, 2, 3 for our choices. So this is choice 1, choice 2, choice 3, even though it's still index 0, index 1, index 2 in the array itself. If we plug in the wrong choice, we'll see that we don't get any points back. If we plug in the right choice, we'll see that we get all the points back, and that's because we inherit this check answer method from the superclass, from the question class. We don't actually need to redo any of that work here because we are using inheritance. This multiple choice question class already has access to that check answer method, and it should work just fine. We can use it appropriately. Let's run this code, make sure that it works. It's displaying the questions properly. All right, what studio is this? 1 points. Well, that's maybe a little bit of an error that I might look into fixing. But here's our list of choices. 1, 2, 3, 4. And if we plug in incorrect answers, we get 0 points. But as soon as we plug in the right choice, which is 3, we get the correct number of points back. Okay. We have one more question type to take a look at before we start putting all of these things together to make a quiz. This is going to be a select all question. So these are similar to multiple choice questions, and actually you can see that the inheritance we're using is inheriting from not the superclass, not from the question class, but from multiple choice question. So we actually have a hierarchy, right? Multiple choice question is inheriting from question, and then select all question is inheriting from multiple choice question. A select all question is like a multiple choice question. It has a list of choices, but unlike a multiple choice question, there can be multiple correct answers. So it's, select all of the items that you might find at the grocery store, right? Lettuce would be a correct answer, tomatoes would be a correct answer, car would probably be an incorrect answer. You don't go to the grocery store to buy a car. So those are the kinds of questions that we're trying to model here. And so we need to think about how that changes the behavior in terms of what we want our code to do. Let's start by thinking if there's any additional instance variables that we need to track. I'm not so sure that there are. I think that the correct answer is just going to look a little bit differently. So if there's multiple correct choices, then I would expect 2 letters here, right? So in order to get this problem 100% correct, we need to have all of the correct answers selected and none of the incorrect answers selected. So, if there's 2 correct answers, then I would expect this string to have 2 letters in it. If there's 3 correct answers, I would expect this string to have 3 letters in it, so on and so forth. So I don't think we really need any instance variables. We just need to use the ones that we've already got. One problem that we do have, though, is that we need to call the super constructor here, which is expecting 4 parameters for multiple choice question: prompt, answer, points, and choices. But we don't actually have the number of points here. We only have prompt, answer, so that's where points should go, and then choices is going to go over here to set the last instance variable. But there's a hint: 1 point per choice, so I can say choices.length, and that gives me the total number of points that the question is going to be worth. It's based on the number of choices available. Okay, now we have the somewhat tricky task of checking to see if an answer is correct or not. Remember, well, here, let me scroll down and show you some examples of what the answer is going to look like. This is just some junk. This is just to make sure that we can weed out obviously incorrect answers. But what if we try to make a stab at it? The correct answers here are 1 and 3. So these are the correct choices. There's two of them, 1 and 3. And so if I give you 1 and 3, that's correct. But this is also correct, right? 3 followed by a 1. That's still a correct answer. That includes both choices. If I only give you one of those two, then I'm missing a correct answer. So I'm missing one of the correct answers. So that's going to be incorrect. If you look at some of these other examples, they're going to include incorrect answers. So 3 is correct, but 2 is incorrect. So we lose points for the 2 and also the fact that we don't have the 1 included in our answer as well. So it's a little bit tricky. There's two things that we need to check for, but I included some methods here for you to use to help you with this process. There's one that's called Find Missing Correct Answers. So it'll go through a given answer and check all of the characters to make sure that all of the correct choices are included in the given answer. And then there's another method called Find Incorrect Given Answers that's going to go through and count how many incorrect choices were selected. So these two are both telling us how many incorrect values have been found. Hopefully it's 0, right? If we want to give them all the points, then hopefully they have 0 incorrect values, but we need to see how many are incorrect by calling those methods and then tallying up the result. So I'm going to make a variable called, you can do this all in one line, I suppose, but I'm going to break it up into a few lines. I'm going to make a variable called score. I don't know why I was having such a hard time. I'm going to set it to be equal to the total number of points. So this dot, you can see that if I try to access this dot points, it doesn't work. This dot points was defined in the question class. It does exist, but it's private. We can't access it, so we have to use the getter. Since we're outside of the question class, we have to use the getter here. So instead of this dot points, I have to say this dot get points. All right, and then I'll start subtracting any incorrect values that we find. So score is going to be equal to the score minus find missing correct answers for the given answer. And then score is going to be equal to score minus find incorrect given answers. And then finally we'll just return score. Okay? We can actually scroll down here before we run the code and see, all of these are given so that we can see how much they should be telling us when we run this. So let's go ahead and run the problem. We'll see that it says, select all of the following that can be found within a class. It's worth 4 points. That's good. It's using the methods that were inherited from both the question class and the multiple choice question class. So instance variables and methods are the correct answer. And then this is where we start checking answers. So that's the first one. So it just says hi. So no credit, 1 point. 1, 3 gives us the 4, going down 3, 3, 2, 2, 1, 1, 0. So it looks like it works. Looks like it's working appropriately. And now for our final task of the studio, we can use all of these question types together to make a quiz. So let's take a look at the quiz class. The quiz contains an array of questions. So even though this says an array of questions, anything that inherits from the question class, either directly or indirectly, can go into this array. This is a technique known as polymorphism that allows us to represent an object by any of the types that it might be. So, a multiple choice question is a question. So if I have a multiple choice question object, I can choose to refer to it as such, or if I want to, I can choose to refer to it as a question. And that's useful for us because this allows us to make one array for all of our questions instead of a separate array for the questions, a separate array for the multiple choice questions, so on and so forth. So the constructor's already been done for us. It takes an array of questions. Get user answer is what we can use to actually take the quiz. So this is going to create the scanner for us, make the scanner work, hopefully. And then for get total points is going to compute the total number of points in the quiz. You can see it's actually using the array of questions to do this and then calling the get points method from all of the question objects, regardless of whether they're multiple choice questions or select all questions. What we need to do is write the code to actually make the quiz work. So for each question, we need to display the prompt, get user feedback, and check to see if it's correct. So we can do that by iterating again through our list of questions. I'm going to use a for each loop because I think it's going to work nicely here. And then for each question, we need to display the prompt. We need to get user feedback or get user input. So get user answer. I might say, this dot get user answer. And then finally, we need to check whether the given answer is correct or not. By using the check answer. So we'll say int points is equal to q dot check answer, given answer. And I think probably what we need to do is make a points variable maybe outside of the loop here to track the total number of points that the user gets on the quiz. Started at 0. Yeah, this is what needs to happen. And then once the quiz is over, we can say you scored the number of points that they got out of and then call the get total points method to track the total number of points that the quiz is worth. We actually have a main method set up down here that contains a question, a multiple choice question, and a select all question that we can use to take the quiz. So let's go ahead and try that out to wrap up this studio. All right, what number studio is this? It's just waiting for me to type in the correct answer. So it's looking for the answer 8, right? I'm going to actually do this first one incorrectly, so I'll type in 5. What studio is this? I'll do this one correctly. So this is a multiple choice question. It's asking me to answer 3. Select all of the following that can be found within a class. And so in this case, I could type in either 1, 3, or I could type in 3, 1 to get all of the points, right? Or some combination to get a different number of points. I'll type in 1, 3. It tells me that I scored 5 out of 7, and that's correct. I bombed this first question, got that incorrect, but I got this one correct and that one correct, so I got 5 out of 7. Alrighty, that's going to wrap it up for this studio. I hope it was a good example of inheritance. I'll see you all in lecture next week for our final topic.